So this video is about my why. The animals that affected my life, that kind of give me energy in their after their passing. It's JC, Sadie, Tigger, Buster, Skookum, Buster, Sandy, Tootie Vinny, Wiley, Sandy. They're all my whys. One of the biggest reasons is the black marks that I have on my soul for what I did for the kids. You know, things that I did that I regret, that I wish I took back, and that's part of why I owe. And that's what I want to be able to redeem myself for. I want to be able to redeem myself for the things that I did that I wish I could take back. I feel like they've kind of given their energy back into me. And even if they are on to their next life, they're, by remembering them and by putting their content out there, but I really do hope that it improves their life and their next life, so that the more that I can kind of give them remembrance and say their name out loud, they're going to be remembered. Skookum was my grandparents' dog. I've got pictures that my grandparents had that I've uploaded. He was just still growing, probably about a year old when, maybe not even a year old, when I was just a little tyke, when I was a little guy. My grandma told me this story of him, that he sat on me. He sat on me just before I reached an embankment. My grandparents were going to build a bulkhead, but they hadn't done that for another 15 years or so. It was just erosion over the. It's a good chance I wouldn't have made it had I had dropped. You know, I was screaming, "Grandma, Grandma, help me!" or "Grandpa, Grandpa." I can't remember which one. He was that big fluffy guy that I could just roll on and roll all over, and he looked after me. He looked after me. My grandpa had a bond with Tootie and Vinny. They were very important to him. They were important to me, but just not on the same level of any kind. My grandpa cried every time he thought about him on his happy hour and during their birthdays. And this was years after they died, and he would still, it was like 10 years after they had died, easy. They were important to me, but just not on the same level of any kind. And Bear was a big influence on me as well. I didn't actually say that when I was at the river. So I probably had more memories with Bear on a regular basis. Now, there was some overlap with Sandy and Bear. So I don't remember if Sandy ever met Bear. I think he did. I think they did, but I don't remember their interactions. Bear was a sweetheart. Bear had a lot of personality. Also had Tigger. We had Tigger while we had JC and Sadie. He was a striped tabby, black and gray, but we had kind of gone together like peas and carrots. He went through a lot of iterations of other animals and iterations of different living situations, you know, moving. But my grandpa's chair was given to me, and that was very sentimental to me. Before my feet can even touch the ground, you know, Tig would be on my lap, and he would go back and forth, because I rocked hard. Rock back and forth in my chair. Man, like, it was a thing that I did. So when I go back and forth, you know, like, he's just in my lap, just go boom, 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 boom. He's shifting, his whole body's shifting, like it's sometimes, like, it was strong enough to where he was gonna keep going with it. But he did. We had a cat later in his life when he was too old to defend himself, and really didn't have that. He was more of a beta anyways. And we brought a cat in there that everybody loved. He just loved humans, but he was very territorial. His name was, we called him Monster. But Monster was a great cat for people, but very territorial when it came to Tigger, because he smelled weakness. And there was a couple times I had to crawl all the way down under the house to stop them from fighting, because we would hear it underneath the house. Tig lasted all the way up until I was 20. Like 21 or so. We were close to age. Like, I don't know why, either 18 or 21, I take for his age. He was the first tough put down. Tigger was a big thing for me. And some of my why, it comes from JC and Sadie as well. About later single digits, we had JC and Sadie. Sadie was a Doberman Pinscher. JC was a Golden Retriever, maybe something else, I'm not sure. But JC and Sadie were important to me. I do have a black mark on my soul for them. Well, I would say more so with Sadie, because there was one time where I was on my bike and I would kick Sadie, because I was favoring JC. I'm too young now to remember how close of a time frame it was, but I remember feeling the guilt from when Sadie fell off the couch. I fell into a seizure. Now that seizure was pretty clear to my dad that I think it was over. I think it was time for her to go. And I don't know why I did that. I don't know what was going on in myself that I decided to do that. It was close enough in a time frame that I know I felt guilty over what I had done, and maybe I had caused that somehow, or I had sped up the process of her dying. And my dad rushed her. I think I went with him. We put Sadie in the back seat to the animal vet, the animal ER, I'm sure, and we did the best we could. I don't remember much after that, but that was Sadie was put to sleep at that point. And that's part of my why is I need to redeem myself. I need to redeem myself for what happened. Now, my first dog, I had Sandy. Sandy was just before, it's about high school years, early high school years. I can't say that any of the animals that I had taken on was a perfect fit. It was more so as they need a home, and I don't see any reason why not, basically. And that's kind of how I chose my animals. Sandy was just in a tough place, a home filled with feces. And he tore his, best comparison to a human being would be the ACL. I could have rehabbed him better. I do feel somewhat guilty over that. When I got my house, I had first moved out of my parents' house when I was about 19, and I didn't take Sandy with me. He stayed at my mom's house, and I would come back to the house, frequently. Sometimes as things went on, within probably about a year to 2 years, I would go in. Sometimes more frequently than others as far as patterns concerned. By 2006, I had gotten my house. I didn't pick him up right away because I was still trying to figure out how I was going to get into this house, how I was going to live, what I was going to do. So my mom and my stepdad had continued to look after Sandy. But I don't really blame myself for that, and I think that he was okay. What Sandy is that like Buster, that came after Sandy, that he did not like stairs. I think I did the same thing for Sandy that I did with Buzz, is that, I'd wake up in the middle of the night, I'd take him out, I'd shine a light, spotlight. Good job, boy. There was a couple times where I was trying to show him tough love. But when he got older, he had a tough time going down the stairs, and there was a couple times where he had fallen down the stairs. I did not want to intervene. I did not want to help him because I thought that he should be doing better himself. So I let him, and there was one time that I drug him. I drug him across because I thought that he could get up and go use the bathroom. He was being lazy, and then it was something I was going to have to clean up after. So, I was upset because he didn't do it on his own volition. So he had a tough time walking, and when he was older, he didn't want to go out and go to go to the bathroom, and so. I would do a lot of different things. I would try to carpet it with plastic. I would put area rugs down that I had pulled out from a house previously, and I'd cut that up. And then, he was starting to make, pee spots that I couldn't keep cleaning up, and so I was getting frustrated. It wasn't an easy thing for me to deal with at the time. I could have done a much better job of not projecting. And I really did believe, I think at the time, that he could have overcome on his own. The black mark on my soul for what had happened, for what I had chosen to do with Sandy, was I took a tougher approach. I don't think that Sandy was as tough. He didn't have the grit that I think that he should have. I was starting to think that I was coddling him. So I would not go down with him and set his, with my hand under his chest and then help him down. I would just kind of step back and let him kind of go down on his own, because if he has no one to rely on, then he's going to do it right because he has to. Now that I look back, I should have tried harder to work with him in that respect. And that's part of my why. That's part of the redemption I need That's why I owe him. After Sandy, I had gotten Bus. Buster was a dog that my mom had gotten me probably earlier than I was ready for an animal. It was about 6 months-ish, not quite a year since I had lost Sandy, and I wasn't quite ready for another animal. I still had things going on. No discredit to my mom, but she wanted me to have another dog. She knew that I was an animal person, of course, and she wanted me to have a dog. I said, okay, go get the animal that is least likely to be adopted. He was matted. He hadn't been brushed in a while. Big oafy dog. He was a golden retriever and chow mix. He had the most inconvenient parts of each dog. He had thick fur, really long. You know, it was hard to brush. It was hard to cut. You needed the toughest trimmers. And he was too unsure of himself. He had not had laminate flooring. He didn't have stairs. And I had begun to then build up more and more carpeting for him to walk on. And now that I think about it, there was more that I could do. But I tried a lot of things. Buster also, we had so much good time. But Buster was a dog that we even had the conversation that kind of that puts it into perspective. That, hey, look, you and I are just gonna have to get through this. We're just gonna have to do the best we can, man. And I know that's kind of, that he was on track with that. Like that's kind of the way he felt too in a lot of ways, you know. It's like, we're not perfect for each other, but I'm willing to go through it with you, and he's willing to go through it with me. So we did okay, you know, but he wasn't the perfect dog for me, and I wasn't the perfect human for him, you know, but we did okay. I do give myself credit for trying different things. And I did work hard at working with him as my partner. I did have a black mark on my soul for how I handled Buster. There was a few days that I had left him outside because he did not want to come up the stairs. He would find a rhythm. He would find a pattern on the stairs, and then he would about 3 times, boom, boom. He would find that rhythm and then go up, and then go up. Sometimes he would not find that rhythm, and he just didn't have the confidence. I don't know what was going on in his head. He'd find that. Good job, boys. He'd quit. He'd leave. He'd leave. But I had left him out there for a few days. Now I'd fed him. I'd taken my food down to him, but I wanted him. I tried to draw that hard line so that he would actually make his way up himself. And then I thought, well, shoot, if you're going to wait a day, then fine. You're going to have to wait until you want to get up so bad that you make that decision that I'm going to get up there. I don't know that was the best way to handle it, but that's the way I did, and I feel like I owe for that. He had definitely a good, decent break away from the stairs, because he spent time at my dad and his wife's house. That was good for him. That was a special place for him. That was a break for him. He enjoyed himself there. He would spend time in the next to the lean-to. I had put a whole futon in the lean-to, but he enjoyed staying right inside that little dirt crevice. He loved his dirt crevices. It looked like I didn't take care of him. When it was hot out, I'd given him a shave. He wasn't pretty, you know. That was Bus. After Buster had died, that was April of 2015. Buster was a tough one for me to let go. Now we did, when I put Buster down. It was serendipitous. It was the picture-perfect story ending. Yeah. I laid him down. I looked through his eyes. They gave him the needle, and he went to sleep. I think that he had a good life.
He's just too happy with looking down. Yeah.
One of them that I didn't mention at the river was, I called him Mr. Bojangles. After rally, not this last year, but the year before, on my way back, I stopped at Yosemite National Park, and inside Yosemite, was it Yosemite? I think it was Yosemite, or no, Keystone. Anyway, it was one of the national parks there on the way back from Raleigh in Sturgis, and I'd set my hammock up so that it was off of a tree, off the car. I had the Taurus at the time. It was off the car, and a mouse had climbed into the dash. Now I've had problems with mice chewing wires and whatnot, and I didn't have any money The house still hadn't sold yet. So if I suffered an issue with the car, I wouldn't have been able to make it. I don't know what I would have done at that point. So, I mean, out of fear of my own situation, I would slap the dash. You know, I saw him even come up into the dash and whatnot, you know. So my hope was that I would give him a heart attack by slapping the dash. And then even if he died in there, you know, and I dealt with a smell or something after the fact, at least there was no wires chewed up and whatever the case is. So I actually made it all the way back from Sturgis to Washington State and Olympia. First, I got a trap that snaps, and then I kind of just said, well, what am I doing? Like that's not. If there is any way that I can get him alive and get him out, so you know, yeah, he'd be in a different ecosphere, I suppose, in Washington State versus, let's just say, Keystone, I think, or Yosemite. He would still be able to make his own way, or at least have his own chance in a different area. So then I went to get a live trap. So I got a live trap, and I put the live trap in there with the food and whatnot, and I checked it once, nothing there, and then I put it back down there. And then the next time I went to check it, I just took the box and I shook it, just to find out if there was anything in there. And I think that all I thought that was there was just a piece of cheese. And then I just put it in the trunk. Then I went back in and I finally opened it up, and then the mouse was in there. And the only thing that I could think of at that point was everything that he had gone through up until his last moments, which was horrific. I can only imagine that was on the level of torture. That was on the level of a lot of things that were not good, and anything that I did not, I couldn't escape from it. I couldn't escape from what I had done, or what that mouse had gone through based on my actions or my negligence. So that is a black mark on my soul, and that's one of my whys. You know, there's a couple other big whys that I need to mention too. One of them was kind of who I called Little One. But last year that I was here in Raleigh, a group of baby bunnies were caught underneath one of the. Well, they were given birth, and I think that the mom bunny thought that underneath the mower was a good place to be. I probably don't need to tell you too much about what actually happened. We needed to put to rest all the other bunnies. I guess there was probably about 5, 6, 7, something like that. There was no physical damage on that one. I called him Little One, and I brought him back with. I don't know if it was a girl or a boy, but I brought him back with me. I got him some hyperallergenic food mixture, but he didn't make it. And part of that, the black mark on my soul for that one, is he just got his ears to pop up. I think I got the video right there that it shows that he just got his ears to pop up. I think he was starting to make it, and in that same night, I left him in the box, covered up, so to speak, but still, it was the colder morning, and there was a couple times, just like with Wiley, how I could have gotten up. I was half asleep, and I had the idea to go get him, and I still didn't do it. And that was the black mark, is that I did that with him too. With that Little One, is I could have gotten up, I could have gotten the heater on him, I could have done more for him to make sure that he was warm, whatever the case is, but I thought, he'll be okay. He'll make it. He'd be normally under the ground in the dirt or something like that anyways. And he didn't make it past that point. He was gone in the morning. So I think he might have had a fighting chance had I gotten to him before that. And then there's Wiley.
Why boy? Why boy? Why boy? My why boy.
Wiley was the name of the band that played at Alien Talk. It was Wiley Savage. And part of why I took Wiley was because of the great situation that came out of it. The worry that I had over him almost every day is he coming back? Is he okay? Is he going to make it? Am I going to be able to fix my situation? I mean, the things I did that were outside of my own character, and how I responded to other people and organizations that I was dealing with that were getting in the way of me helping Wiley. And the way I responded was ways that I had never thought that I would, except for what a parent does for a child. When a parent does what he has to for a child, that's how I felt, and that's what my response was. You know, I acted in ways that I felt that I don't think that were wrong, but were very uncharacteristic of me, in a desperation to do what I have to make sure that he was okay. I don't know that I really went through that as much nearly with the other kids. We never really got too much into pattern, to where I can kind of count on the way he's going to act, or count on the way he's going to. We did a little bit at Dan's when we were at his place, because it was a consistent thing that he would be there, and that I had the heater set up for him. Wiley's probably like my biggest why.
But Wiley, of course, is a big why as to why I'm doing this.